You know, in any crisis, there are really only two sounds. You've got the sound of the herd, and then you have the sound of the survivor. One is deafening, the other is completely silent. Today, we're going to break down a strategy for cutting through chaos that's as old as time itself, pulled right from the ancient battlefields, to really understand the law of the silent march.
And let's be clear, that's not some kind of dark prediction. It's a diagnosis. Because in that critical moment, the loudest screams, they always belong to the ones who've already lost the battle in their own minds. They're choosing noise, and in doing so, they're giving up their control, their fate.
So, for this lesson, we have to go way back. I'm talking nearly 2,500 years ago, to a Greek mercenary army called the 10,000. These guys were trapped deep inside the Persian Empire, and their story, which was written down by their commander, Xenophon, well, it's one of the most raw and effective case studies you'll ever find on the psychology of survival.
And this is where you see the huge difference, right? Picture this. A massive Persian army is coming right at them. The allies, the undisciplined forces, they do exactly what you'd expect. They scream, they panic, and all that noise, it does more than just show fear. It actually creates a weak spot, a vacuum that the enemy can just pour right into. But the 10,000? They did the exact opposite. They held their ground, stayed silent, and turned that silence into a solid wall of discipline.
And that gets to the absolute heart of it. Silence isn't just sitting there doing nothing. It's not weakness. It's an active weapon. I mean, sure, on a physical level, it saves energy. But what's way, way more important is that it protects the single most valuable thing you have in a crisis, a clear mind that can actually function, a mind that hasn't been corrupted by the herd's panic.
So this whole idea, it starts as a group tactic, but it becomes something much more personal. It's not just about how soldiers line up on a battlefield. It's about the kind of internal armor you need to build to handle the kind of pressure that just shatters most people.
I mean, Xenophon's insight here is it's huge. He saw this direct link. The more a person yells or complains or just runs their mouth in a crisis, the more you know that fear has its grips in them. All that noise is just their internal chaos spilling out. It's a total giveaway. It's a tell.
And just think about how this plays out today, in any kind of breakdown. The loud ones, they're always the first to start spreading rumors they heard from a friend of a friend. They're the ones hitting share on fake news, just pouring fuel on the fire. And maybe worst of all, they waste all their energy screaming for help from systems, the government, the grid, that in that moment might not even be there to answer. They're basically just screaming into the wind.
So what's the alternative? Well, it's this. This is the stance of the silent survivor. You don't just react, you observe. You don't get swept up in the panic, you wait. And then, when the time is right, you move, quietly and with purpose.
Okay, so I know this all might sound like a lesson from some dusty old history book, but here's the thing. This exact same dynamic is happening all around us, right now, more than ever before. So let me ask you, where is today's battlefield? Where is that screaming herd in our modern world?
Well, we've moved on from the plains of Persia. The new battlefield is right there in your pocket. The rules of the game, the core principles, they are exactly the same. But the arena has changed. It's become a war for your attention and really for your emotional stability. Yep, the answer is literally in the palm of your hand. The modern noise, that screaming herd, it's the endless algorithm-fueled scroll of social media. It's a digital scream happening 24/7, and it is perfectly designed to create the very same panic that those allies felt on Xenophon's battlefield. And you have to understand, this isn't an accident. It's engineered. It's built to keep you in a constant state of what you might call high-vibration fear, that feeling of outrage, anxiety, and nonstop urgency. And just like screaming on the battlefield, all that emotional output just drains your mental battery. It shatters your focus, and it leaves you totally unable to think clearly or do anything effective. So, if the battlefield is now digital, our tactics have to adapt, right? And that brings us to the survival guide for the information age. We're calling it the Digital Blackout Protocol. It's a modern take on the exact same discipline those 10,000 Greeks used to survive.
It's a pretty simple three-step process, but it's all about making a conscious decision. Are you going to be a passive consumer of all this chaos, or are you going to be an active, silent operator? Let's break down each step.
Okay, step 1, and honestly, this is the most critical part. Silence the input.
This means you have to actively cut off the fire hose of digital noise. That might mean curating it, limiting it, or just shutting it off completely. Now, this isn't about being uninformed. It's about refusing to be psychologically played by the manufactured panic of the digital herd.
And here's the payoff. Once you've silenced the input, you can actually move to step 2. Observe the exit. With all that noise gone, you can finally see clearly. While everyone else is distracted and screaming at the big obvious problem, screaming at the wall, your newfound clarity lets you spot what they miss, the subtle opportunity, the overlooked escape route, the hole in the fence.
And that brings us to the final step. Move in shadows. What does that mean? It means when you make your move, you do it quietly. You don't broadcast your plans. You don't post your next step. Real effectiveness, real survival, is achieved without a big announcement. Your success should only be obvious after it's already too late for anyone to get in your way.
Look, to really pull this off, you have to adopt a totally different mindset, and it really boils down to these 2 commands. First, stop looking for consensus from a crowd that's in a full-blown panic. Their approval is completely irrelevant. And second, stop asking for permission from a system that might be on the verge of failing anyway. Your survival is on you. It depends on your own agency, your own decisive action. So in the end, it all comes down to this one choice. When the pressure is on, when the digital and the real world screaming starts, and it will, you have to decide. Are you just going to be another echo in the chamber of fear? Or are you going to be the discipline, the observation, the silence? The choice is yours.